You guys had a test last week. That means that we have completed collection number two. And today we begin collection number three. We do not only begin collection three, but we begin the second quarter. So, welcome to the second quarter of the school year. Three more to go, one behind us. You should be getting your quarterly report by Friday, or you or your parents. I don't know who, one or the other, or both. And you'll get what you'll get, right? You'll be seeing the fruits of your labor if you labored. Because if you don't labor, you cannot see fruits of labor, right? You see nothing. So, having said that, I want to remind you that we have a book report coming very soon. I believe that our book report is like 2.5 weeks away, or 3 weeks, something like that. So, it's important that you're engaging your novel, the one that you said you wanted to report on. Remember that a book report is a gift given to you. You're being gifted with a nice reading experience, which is one of life's simplest but greatest pleasures. Reading a good book, there's very few things in life compared to sitting down and chilling and reading a good book. It's better than watching a good movie. And I love watching good movies, but reading a good book is so much better. So let's begin this new collection, this new chapter that is, or this unit that is titled Narration, Tone, and Voice. We have already seen uh, various elements of literature. Our first collection dealt with something called plot and setting. We have just completed a collection that deals with the element of character. And today we're going to begin one that deals with narration, tone, and voice. I think you're going to enjoy this collection very much. This is a collection that I personally enjoy very much. We're going to be doing something, I'm giving you the heads up, right? We're going to be doing something called literary criticism. And literary criticism, and we're going to use a particular approach that is known as the biographical approach, that says that it states that we can understand the works of a particular author better if we study the life of that author. We can see the connections between the life and the work of a person, right? And the author that we're going to be showcasing this semester, because we're going to be doing literary criticism with two authors, one this semester, one next semester. This semester it will be Edgar Allan Poe, one of the great masters of horror. So brace yourself because we're going to spend a lot of time with Edgar Allan Poe. But that's going to be probably at the end of next week. So let's talk about narration, tone, and voice. I hope that you found the lesson at the LMS where I posted it. It's also in my website if you want to go to the original version, the PowerPoint. And I would like for you to take a close look at this illustration and tell me what you see. A woman, but can you do better? But describe this woman to me. Is she young or old? She's young. What parts of her face do you see? The rest of you, would you agree with him or do you see something else? Okay, somebody said she's an old woman. Who said that? Who's that? Who? Don't say I because I can't see you. Who is I? Who? Okay, Andres. What are you seeing, Andres? Okay, did you hear what Andres just said? How many of you see what Andres just described? Okay, interesting. Does anybody see anything else? Okay, but is she young or old? But it's interesting how uh, you're seeing two different things. So nobody else sees anything else because through the years I have shown this illustration to students, and it's mind-boggling when it comes to the amount of different things that they see. Does anybody here see a bald eagle? No, I do. Okay, who does? Who? Tatiana. Okay, she sees a bald eagle. Does anybody see a lion? Yeah. Well, I don't see that lion, but some people swear they have seen a lion here. But to be honest with you, let me ask you a question. Do you see this pointer that I'm moving? Okay. The people that see a young woman, she's in profile, in semi-profile. She's looking away from you. This would be an eyelash. This would be part of her nose. This is her jawline, and this would be her ear. And she's wearing a fur coat. This is a choker. That's a young woman. Though that's see an old woman, she is looking. She's downcast. She's looking. She's in profile, right? We can see her from her left side in semi-profile. She has a huge nose that I'm showing you right here. A big nose. This instead of a nose would be an eye bag, another eye bag, and her mouth is almost open. We see no teeth, and she's resting her jaw on her chest. Did you see that? And so people say that this here is the head of a bald eagle. And so people swear that they see a lion eating a person's head, which I have never seen. But I think it's fascinating how we can all look at the same thing and see something different. Let's look at another picture. Who can tell me what you see here? There's a dog in the floor. What else do you see? Describe what you're seeing. A baby. Where's the baby? Also, there's a woman with a baby in her arms, and there's a dog. What else do you see? Okay. And where are they? Are they anywhere particular? Okay. How many of you see something else? Okay. Hold on. Who's saying that? Okay, Janelle, what are you seeing? What do you say that you see here? Okay, so there's a head. Can you describe the head? Okay, how many of you are seeing what Janelle says he's seeing? Okay, how many of you see one, two, three, six faces? Let's see if we can see them. I see a giant head of a man with what was that again? Okay, we're gonna check that in a minute. We're gonna look at that. Some people see like an arc of a door and a side near a sidewalk on a street. There's a dog laying on the street, and there's an old man next to a young woman holding a baby with some bushes behind her in the entrance of a door. Some people see a giant head of an old man. This would be the nose. He is bald. Instead of weeds, this would be like hair on his side of his head. And this is his hand holding his chest. And some people see several faces. One, two, three, 4 looking forward, 5 looking to the side, 6 looking to the side, and 7 looking in that direction. Did you see them? Did you? Okay. But the point I'm trying to make here by showing these images to you is simply that we can look at one thing and see something very different. For example, we have a car crash, we have an automobile accident where we have two drivers involved, and the witnesses of that accident include four sidewalk spectators, a policeman, a man with a video camera who happened to be shooting the scene, and the pilot of a helicopter that was flying overhead at that particular moment. When you get the account of all these people, which are 9, you're going to have 9 different points of view of the same thing, and most likely you're going to have 9 different descriptions of what happened. So you will have to make what, an analysis or a synthesis to get to the truth? Thank you, madam. Correct. You will have to make a synthesis, right? We call that perspective or point of view. And in short fiction, who tells the story and how the story is told are very important issues for an author to decide. So before you write a story, as an author, you have to decide who's going to tell the story. You're writing it, you're not telling it. Don't forget that. The tone and feel of the story, and even the meaning of the story, can change radically depending on who's telling the story. Remember that someone is always between the reader and the action of the story, and that's not the writer. We're going to call that person the narrator. That narrator is telling the story from his or her point of view, from their perspective, the same way that the witnesses at the accident that I just described will look at are sharing information from their particular point of view. And this angle of vision, this point of view from which the people, events, and details of the story are viewed, is important to consider when you're reading the story. You have to identify who is telling the story. Who is the narrator? That's a question you always need to ask yourself. Who is telling the story? And this collection, more than any other collection, you will have to be answering this question all the time. Who is telling the story? In literature and storytelling, a point of view or narrative mode, we're going to call it narrative or narrational mode, is the related experience of the narrator, not that of the author. That's going to be our working definition of narration, point of view, or narrative mode, whatever you want to call it. Again, I repeat, we're going to say that it is the related experience of the narrator, not that of the author. So the author is deciding who's going to be telling the story. And we're going to see in the different variety of ways that a story can be told. In fiction, an author will rarely insert or inject his own voice because this challenges the suspension of disbelief. Remember, the suspension of disbelief is when you decide to accept this fictional story as reality in order to enjoy it. And you know it's a piece of paper that someone wrote, or it's a movie that someone shot, but you decide to suspend your disbelief and you accept it as real. Remember, the text is going to encourage the reader to identify with the narrator, not the author. So, as far as you're concerned, when you suspend your disbelief, there's no such thing as an author. The author does not exist, only the narrator exists. And in literary narration can occur in a variety of ways, which you're going to learn today. It can be omniscient, also known as third person unlimited. It can be first person, or it can be the most common one, which is third person limited point of view. And there's something called second person, but we're not going to go there because it is the least one used. And second person usually destroys your suspension of disbelief. Let's look at each one of them. Let's begin with first person point of view. The first person point of view, the narrator participates in the action of the story, meaning that the narrator in the story is a character in the story. It's usually the protagonist, but not always. I have read stories that have been narrated in first person by someone that is not the main character. It's uncommon, but it's interesting. Um, when reading stories in first person point of view, we need to realize that what the narrator is recounting might not be the objective truth. Remember that. Some people, that include you and me, sometimes see things in a way that is not necessarily factual reality, but our interpretation of what we're seeing. Does that make sense to you? Let's say that you're drunk and someone's asking you what happened at the bar. Is that going to affect your perception of what happened? Yes or no? It's a simple question, guys. Of course it will. What if you're high? Will it affect the way that you see things? Most definitely. Thank you, sir. Most definitely. And Mr. Hagen, I hope you're not speaking from experience, okay? Um, don't worry, I won't tell your mom. Your secret. I am a tomb, sir. I am a tomb. Um, if you're mentally ill, will it affect? Let's say you have schizophrenia or have bipolar disorder. Will that affect the way you see things? Or if you're biased against a particular person, you have a bias against someone, a prejudice. You see how all these things work? How they can color the way reality is perceived by people. So when you're hearing or when you're reading a first person point of view narration, sometimes you have to take it with what we call a grain of salt because it might or might not be what really is going on. So we have to question the truthworthiness of what is being accounted. There's a subcategory in first person point of view that is known as the unreliable narrator. And you're going to see that a lot with Edgar Allan Poe. I told you we will be reading Poe. You're going to see that a lot with Edgar Allan Poe. The unreliable narrator, because sometimes his stories are narrated by people that are not well, mentally speaking, right? They're like out there. So you're wondering, wait a minute, what is this guy talking about? Is this guy okay? You question what the guy is saying. You're going to see that in the Cask of Amontillado. And you were supposed to see that in eighth grade. In eighth grade, you were supposed to read a story by Edgar Allan Poe titled "The Telltale Heart." Did you guys read that one? Okay. Okay. So you're going to read a similar story in this one, in this collection titled "The Cask of Amontillado." But we'll see that in several weeks. Okay, let's move on to the next point of view. The next point of view is okay. It's the unreliable narrator, and we already explained that one. We have something called second person point of view. The story is told to you. This point of view is not common, but it's good that you know that it does exist. But I particularly hate it. I don't like this kind of storytelling very much. Third person limited point of view. Limited because we have to distinguish it from another one that is called unlimited. So third person limited point of view is a method of storytelling or narrational mode in which the narrator knows only the thoughts and feelings of one single character. So they know everything about only so one person. And that one person is usually the protagonist. So third person will grant you, will grant the writer more freedom than first person. but less than third person unlimited or omniscient. So let's recap for a moment. First person narrational mode, the narrator is a character inside the story. And that's quite limited because if you're inside the story, you can only see what is the circumstances that are surrounding you. You don't see what the circumstances that are surrounding other characters. So there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things that we don't know in first person. That's why you see that first person is used a lot in things like horror, for example. It's used very much in horror because it wants to heighten up like anxiety because we don't know the whole picture. Third person limited gives you a bigger picture because you will know everything that's going on with the protagonist, even what they're thinking, but they don't tell you what everybody else is doing and everybody else is thinking. And finally, we have third person unlimited, omniscient. The word omniscient is a compound word. Omni is a Greek word that means all or everything. And scient means science or knowledge, which you can translate to all knowledge. Are human beings omniscient? Only teenagers. Teenagers know everything. Other than that, the rest of the human race is not omniscient. We don't know everything. In my case, I barely know anything. Who's the only one who is omniscient? God. God is the only person I know that knows everything about everything. Other than God. So, an omniscient point of view is one where the narrator has full access to the thoughts and experiences of all the characters in the story. And as I said, this narrator knows everything about everything. He knows what these guys are planning over here, what this guy is thinking over here, what this guy is feeling over here. Um, and You see this in novels like The Lord of the Rings. You're gonna see third person unlimited, where you know exactly everything that you need. You know everything that's going on. So those are the three narrational mode that you will be experiencing in this collection. First person, third person limited, and third person unlimited or omniscient. Any question, guys, so far about any of these narrational modes? We will be showcasing them in this collection. The other element of literature that we will be showcasing in this collection is tone. And you know that a story can be described with a single word. You can say that a story is funny. You can say that a story is satirical. You can say that a story is dark. Tone is an essential element of literature. That's why we're going to showcase it. Let me give you a definition. Tone is the attitude a writer takes toward a subject. And depending on the attitude that the author uses to address the subject, is going to create certain feelings in you. Voice is something else that we're going to be showcasing in our stories. You can probably identify a friend or favorite singer by listening to their voice, right? How many of you have a Maria? Do you have a favorite performer, like a favorite singer? What's that? No. I mean, you don't need to have, you don't necessarily need to have one favorite. You can have several favorites. Like in my case, I usually don't have a one favorite thing. I have several favorite things. Is that a who's that? What's guys? Explain that to me. I don't understand that. Is that a singer? Never heard of this. This a he or she or a group or a band or what? What's that? Them. Okay, that's like totally new for me. Never in my life. It was one of those Korean bands. Is it like a Korean thing? No, not Korean. What's BTS? What's that? Forgive my ignorance. A band. One of those Korean boy bands. Oh, that's seven of them, right? Okay, let me ask you a question. If they released a new song and that you've never heard before, would you know it's them? How many of you agree with her? She said that their voices are unique. Do you guys agree with them, or would somebody else sound like them? You agree? Okay, because I don't. I've never heard them. Okay. Um, I know people like Michael Jackson. I mean, who sang like Michael Jackson? No one. No one. So there are performers. There are people that have voices that are so unique that they are easy to identify. They have a unique voice, whether they're Mother or BTS or Michael Jackson or Aretha Franklin or Elvis Presley or Prince or Madonna, whoever you want, whoever it is, right? Well, writers have a voice. The same way that you spend a long time with a performer and you're able to identify them because of their uniqueness, if you spend enough time with a writer, you'll get to know that they have a voice. And voice refers to the unique way in which an author uses the language. Language. Not everybody talks the same way. So when we talk about language, we're talking about words. Not everybody uses words the same way. Uh, Author can, like any person, can have their own particular choice of words to use and combine them in a certain way that creates a sense of style that distinguishes them and sets them apart from anybody else, which is what style does. So that is something else that you're going to have to be in the outlook for. Narrational mode or narration, tone, and voice. So, guys, any comments or questions? There's a question here that I'm looking at, which is number 2. Don't answer that one. I have no idea right now what that question is doing there. Answer only questions 1, 3, and 4. As an answer to number 2, you can write Mr. Soto said don't answer. Okay? Because I've been noticing that some of you are not doing complete work, and it's important that you guys do complete work. So when you do this one, answer all 4 of them. But number 2, you're going to write Mr. Soto said don't answer. Okay? And this will be the assessment for this lesson, guys. Beginning in 2 days, we're gonna like dive into these very cool stories. These are among my favorite stories in this book, the ones we're gonna be reading beginning this week in this collection. Okay, guys. So, any question before we leave? No. Then I'm gonna let you guys go. I'll be seeing you in a couple of days. Make sure that this is uploaded the same way that all of your seat work is supposed to be uploaded. And you have a great day, guys. Take care. Goodbye.